Some battles don't start with shouting, or fences, or courtroom papers. Some begin with something as simple as a quiet morning and the sound of a bridge that's carried you home your whole life. For 16 years, the wooden bridge behind my house sang to me in its own language. It groaned in the winter, whispered in the summer, and hummed with the creek that flowed beneath its ribs. It wasn't just lumber and bolts, it was a promise, a path back to peace, a boundary, a line that said, "This is home, this is mine." But the thing about peace is, it only takes one person with a clipboard and an ego to burn it down. And her name was Valerie Dawson, president of the Ironwood Ridge HOA, destroyer of weekends, eater of souls, and wielder of laminated maps. Before I tell you how she lost everything in wet cement, let me take you back to the morning I realized my quiet life was officially under attack. The morning everything changed. The day began slow, warm, and perfect. Sunrise spilled over the creek, the boards of my bridge creaked their usual sleepy greeting, and I stepped outside with a mug of black coffee and zero problems in the world. Then I heard it. A diesel roar, deep, metallic, angry. The kind of sound you only hear when a machine has no business being where it is. I turned and nearly dropped my mug. A bright orange cement truck, massive, loud, and wildly out of place, was crawling down my driveway, spitting gravel and arrogance. And walking beside it, chin-high, sunglasses on, was Valerie. Her blonde bob didn't move in the wind, her smile didn't reach her eyes, and the way she waved the truck forward, you'd think she was landing military aircraft, not pouring cement on a Tuesday morning. I jogged forward and yelled, "Hey, that bridge isn't rated for that weight." Valerie didn't even flinch. She just tilted her sunglasses down, smirked, and said, "Then maybe you should have built it stronger, Ethan." Right then, in that one clean, disrespectful moment, I knew this wasn't about cement at all. This was about control. And she thought she had it. How the war began. Now I'm not the kind of man who goes looking for fights. When the HOA formed 3 years earlier, I actually voted yes. I figured it'd help keep the entrance clean, stop teenagers from setting off fireworks at 2 a.m., maybe get us a new street light. $50 a year, no big deal. But HOAs are like fire. Controlled properly, they're helpful. Put in the hands of a bored suburban dictator with nothing to lose. They burn everything. Valerie didn't start out leading the HOA. The first board quit after 6 months, and she slid right into the empty seat like she had been waiting for the crown. Her husband is a contractor, so the moment she took over, suddenly every community improvement required one of his trucks, his crews, his invoices. Convenient, right? My first letter from her came a month later. It read, "Friendly reminder, your kayak rack violates visual harmony guidelines." Visual harmony guidelines. My kayak rack was 20 feet inside my property line, hidden by trees, visible only to the squirrels, and even they weren't complaining. I sent her a polite reply, attached the county survey proving it was on my land, thought that would be the end. It was. Because people like Valerie only retreat when there's no one left to bully, and unfortunately for her, I don't break that easily. Vale's map of delusion. At the next HOA meeting, Valerie rolled out a giant laminated map that looked like a middle school art project. No scale, no measurements, just a wobbly blue squiggle labeled Shared Creek Access. She pointed at my bridge, and announced, "As you can see, both sides of this waterway provide shared ingress to community recreation space." I stood up, pulled out the official Lincoln County survey, stamped, signed, and very real, and said, "The public easement stops 53 feet before the creek. The bridge is on my private property. That's not shared, Valerie, that's mine." She smiled that politician smile, the one that means, "I can't win this argument, so I'll just cause bigger problems instead." And she said the HOA classic, "We'll take it under review." which, for anyone who has never dealt with HOA code speak, actually means we are going to do whatever we want. The second strike. 2 weeks later, I woke to the same cement truck crossing my boards, this time heading toward a muddy lot Valerie had decided would become Phase 1 community courts, even though she had zero permission and zero jurisdiction. That night, I'd had enough. I sank a cedar post into the dirt at the start of the bridge and hung a reflective metal sign. Private bridge, 5-ton limit, trespassers PRSECUTD. Then I ran a heavy chain across the entrance, locked it with a padlock that weighed as much as my lunch. By noon the next day, my sign was ripped off, the chain was gone, and in its place was a pastel-colored HOA notice zip-tied to my post. Non-compliance, unauthorized obstruction, remove within 24 hours or be fined. That was the moment I stopped being polite. I bought trail cameras, a notebook, and spare phone batteries. If Valerie wanted a war of documentation, I would bury her in it. The bridge that taught a lesson. Over the next week, HOA vehicles crossed my bridge again and again, heavy trucks, equipment, zero respect for posted weight. I warned them. I filmed everything. Then came the final straw. Valerie herself showed up in the passenger seat of the cement truck, rolled down her window and said, "Community project, don't make this harder than it has to be." I stepped onto the bridge, held up my hand and replied, "The sign says 5 tons. She shot back. The sign wasn't approved by the board. Without missing a beat, I said, "Neither was the bridge." The driver snorted and I saw her jaw tighten. The truck lurched forward anyway. The boards bowed. Something inside the structure groaned in pain. That night, under porch light, I saw the first hairline crack in the central plank. The bridge had given me 16 good years, and now it was warning me. If I didn't act, it would break, and someone could get hurt. That's when Joel showed up. My best friend, the kind of guy you want beside you in a fight. He stepped onto the porch and asked, "We fixing or teaching?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Both. The shear pins." We pulled up the boards at the center span and exposed the old support plates. Then I explained, "If I swap these load bolts for shear pins, the bridge will still hold normal traffic, cars, pickups, whatever. But the next time someone drives a 12-ton cement truck across." Joel grinned. Gravity writes the ending. We worked through the night, quietly, cleanly, legally. No sabotage, no danger, just physics, consequences. And patience. We reassembled the bridge, mounted 2 trail cameras, one underneath the decking, one facing the approach, and waited. The fall. 3 days later, I heard that familiar diesel growl. I didn't even step off the porch. I just opened the live feed on my tablet. The front wheels hit the bridge. The shear pins bent, dropping the truck a few inches. The driver hesitated. Valerie screamed from the roadside, "Keep going." He obeyed. The back wheels cleared, but the churner on the rear axle tipped. A waterfall of wet cement spilled into the creek like gray lava as the truck sagged and sank at an ugly angle. The cameras caught everything. The audio too, including Valerie shrieking, "You're finished, Ethan, you're going to jail." I walked down slowly, calm as Sunday morning. Hands in my pockets, I said, "Good morning, Valerie. You might want to read posted signs next time." Right then, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up. Someone, probably Valerie, had called. The deputy listened, looked at the sign, then shrugged. "Ma'am, this is private property with a posted limit. Your driver ignored it." Valerie sputtered, no words, just outrage and oxygen. Joel leaned in and whispered, "You planned that too well." I replied, "Just enough." Before she left, Valerie managed to slip ankle-deep into the spilled cement. Neighbors saw, some recorded, someone added dramatic music, and within 48 hours, the video went viral. The internet nicknamed her Cement Karen of Ironwood Ridge. I printed that headline and framed it. Pure art. The escalation. Did Valerie back down? Of course not. Tyrants don't retreat, they file paperwork. She sent emails, notices, fines. She called me a menace. She called the bridge a community hazard. She even hired a drone guy who flew over my property like a discount spy movie. I waved at the drone every morning with my coffee just to give him something to film. Then came the lawsuit. Ironwood Ridge HOA versus Ethan Harper. Damages claimed $200,000. When I opened the letter, I actually laughed. But then I called Dana, my lawyer, a small-town attorney with sharp eyes, sharp words, and zero patience for nonsense. She read the paperwork and said, "Relax, we're about to mop the floor with these people. J-U-D-J-U-M-E and T-Day." The courthouse smelled like dust, old wood, and bad decisions. Valerie showed up in a navy suit and an ego 3 sizes too large. Her lawyer tried to paint me as a monster who endangered the community. Then Dana stood, calm, precise, surgical. We presented the videos, the survey, the deed, the permit, the posted signs, the weight limits, the ignored warnings. We called Joel, we called Tom, a retired engineer and former HOA board member who had finally grown tired of Valerie's circus. He testified too. Then Valerie took the stand and destroyed herself with her own arrogance. The judge leaned back, removed his glasses and said, "I've seen many HOA disputes, but this is the first time someone buried their own credibility in wet cement. Case dismissed." The gavel hit, Valerie's face collapsed. Justice heavy, beautiful, final. Or so I thought. The final meeting. 2 days later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. I went just to watch the finale. Valerie stood up front, voice trembling, insisting. The court's decision was based on incomplete information. We will appeal. I calmly plugged a flash drive into the projector. On screen appeared a U.S. federal waterway permit, granting my property exclusive crossing rights for 20 years. Silence. Then gasps. Tom stood and said, "We've also audited the HOA treasury. Valerie used $42,000 of community funds on her personal legal crusade without approval." The room exploded. Someone shouted, "Is that why our playground lights don't work?" Valerie's power evaporated in seconds. They voted her out. Every hand except hers went up. She stormed out, no audience left to impress. And just like that, the war was over. Epilogue. A week later, I got an official apology from the new board. They acknowledged my ownership. They even mailed a $1,000 goodwill reimbursement. I framed the check next to the viral photo of the cement truck. Now the creek is quiet again. The bridge hums its old familiar song. Joel visits sometimes, brings 2 beers and jokes. So what's next for the man who defeated the HOA? I tell him the truth. I'm just going to enjoy the peace I already had, the peace I had to defend. People think this story is about revenge. But it's not. It's about boundaries, about respect, about not mistaking kindness for permission. And every time I cross that bridge now, I remember one simple thing. Gravity always keeps its promises. White heavy check mark Hoa Tales, required outro. That was today's tale from Hoa Tales. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.